minutes in here for the live section, then we'll move into dressing room 4 for the print huddle, and then Sunday's final for that. So, if you want to ask a question, please raise your hand, and we'll start with Stephen off the ball.
Hi Stephen. Just get your reaction first to James McLean's announcement today that he's going to retire, and was there any kind of consideration given to him playing these games this month?
Yeah, James was obviously named in the provisional squad, and you know, regular contact with James. I think just obviously Liam Scales is actually in very good form at Celtic, playing in the Champions League, and he's played a lot on the left side as well, and also Ryan Manning has had some good form for Southampton recently. So James has a great career. You know, he's had a terrific career, and he's still, you know, it's not beyond the possibility I'll be calling the weekend after his injury and ask him to come back in and play. And that is the reality sometimes when you name squads. And so he's had a terrific career, James. I think, you know, young Irish players can learn a lot from how he approached his career. Ireland was always at the forefront of his thoughts. It was always the pinnacle for him, and it was always the most important thing to play for his country. And you have to respect that. I think, from my point of view as a manager, obviously I managed him as a teenager, gave him his debut, and then sold him to Sunderland. But people change in that period. Obviously, he's a different personality then when I managed the Irish team, because that's, you know, he's in his 20s by the time I take up the Ireland team. So he's a different personality. What he brings there is that if there's any grey areas about who might play in the team sometimes, and decisions are not made, and depending on who's available, and he's so forceful in his training performances, sometimes he gets himself in the team by just his sheer intensity in his training, in the sessions. And it's hard to ignore him then. When someone trains like that in the games, he puts it to the forefront of his mind, and that's what he's done.
Just on Liam Scales, who you went to see last night in Glasgow in the Champions League, he obviously finished at Shamrock Rovers, playing mainly as a left wing back. He played a bit there. He went to Scotland initially. He seems to have rediscovered his form playing as a centre half. I think he played once as a left back with under 21s, was mainly as a centre half, which is his preferred position. Mm-hmm. So do you see him playing as a left of the back three in your current formation with the senior team, or as a left wing back?
I think he can do both. You know, I think he can do both, and I see like Liam, when Liam was at UCD, we capped him with the under 21 international team ahead of players who were playing with Premier League clubs at that time, and we brought him to the Toulon tournament at that time, and he had a good tournament, and played in some important wins. He's been in the squad a few times, and not made his debut yet, so he's been a bit unfortunate. He had a very good season. Obviously, did terrific with Shamrock Rovers, and had a very good season with Aberdeen. Initially, under Ange Postecoglou, we played actually 2 games in Europe at left back. You know, that we rewatched recently, and he could certainly do that, no problem. He had a very good season with Aberdeen last year, mainly playing as left of a back 3, and now he's playing as a centre half in a back 2 for Celtic, and playing very well. So it's a credit to him.
Just a quick one on Josh Cullen. I've watched a couple of his games recently for Burnley. The contrast between his international performances and Burnley are incredibly. It's a massive difference, because he seems to be playing with great confidence with Burnley. He's able to pass the ball. He's confident getting on the ball in the middle of the park, where he seems to have lost that a bit in an Irish jersey. Is there any way you can explain that?
I think that's your opinion. I wouldn't agree with that at all. I completely think you're wrong there, and I would certainly not agree with that at all. I think he's, all his performances. Everyone has variations in their performance at some stage, and I think Josh has been very consistent for Ireland, and overall, and he had a good window in the last window. I felt his performances were good against obviously two of the top teams in the world, in France and Holland, and even though Holland are as good as they are, and it was a tight game, we came out the wrong side of it. We lost 2-1. We said, we wouldn't be able to. We said 52% possession in that game, and you don't do that unless the fulcrum, your midfield is on the ball consistently and on that. So Josh has been an excellent player for Ireland, and I don't concur with that.
Matt Dart?
Stephen, just on the goalkeeping situation, Keegan Keller is available. Gavin Bazunu maybe has had a difficult start to the season at Southampton, but the last couple of games have been excellent. The win over Leeds, clean sheet over Stoke, Mark Travis's team as well. Can you maybe talk a little bit about Gavin?
Yeah, Queeveen, obviously we got the call. He got 12 stitches in a joint, in a leg joint and a knee joint. So sometimes with stitches, if it's a calf or a toe or a facial injury, you can get on with it, but you can't if it's on the joint. It just reopens all the time, and it's just unfortunate for Queeveen really, because he's played obviously in the Europa League, and then he was going to play 3 weeks in a row, going to play tonight, and it's just unfortunate for him. With Gavin, obviously I was at a few Southampton games, and they conceded some goals. Even though they were conceding a high number of goals early on, you'd be struggling to look at goal and say that goal was his fault. Sometimes that it can happen, and you don't want it to happen. You don't want your goalkeeper conceding a high number of goals, certainly. But I'm sure they've had 2 good wins, Southampton, and conceded 1 last week and a clean sheet the other night, so they'll take confidence from that.
Just looking ahead to the game, you probably can't read too much into Greece's results against Gibraltar, but are there some things that you might look at the Netherlands 3 Greece game that you can maybe use for this upcoming game?
Yeah, no, listen, Greece are a fine team. All the games have been, obviously, the Holland-Greece game was probably an anomaly because Holland found themselves up 3-0 at half time, but it wasn't a 3-0 game. It shows the importance of sort of set pieces, and Holland scored from a set play, and then they played very well in Amsterdam. Holland did that night all right, but that was obviously Greece have had a good game with France and had a convincing win against Gibraltar. So they're a good team, and one that we might have to make sure we're ready for. It's an important game for us, and so we want to make sure we're ready for that.
Dan Kennedy, please.
Hi Stephen. Are there any players in the squad who have injuries you're worried about? I know Tara Shane, Alan Brown weren't involved for their respective clubs. No, I think Alan Brown, I believe, was an illness, and that's why he missed the game. So no one else that springs to mind that's carrying an injury coming in. Cool. Were you surprised that James decided to retire?
Not really. I think it's we still has the opportunity of being involved in the squad at any time, and we might retire if possibility exists when we get a playoff in March. He still couldn't rule him out, but he has a decision to retire, but we'll have to wait and see.
And just last for me, and this is another topic, but the Aston Villa players have complained about their George jerseys have collected so much sweat in his performance. Obviously, your jerseys are made for Astor as well, and your players have any of those issues or anything against your match.
No, I've not had any feedback in regard to that, and it hasn't really been a discussion at all. No, we've had no issues, to be honest.
Just on reading the did you have that the collision, the training collision?
Yeah, I believe so.
You can get more details
No, it was in training.
Okay, James, is there a chance James could actually join at some place next? Is that invitation open?
No, an invitation. It's not an invitation. Like obviously, he's playing league games, and the league he's in, they play don't for the international window playing league games. But if we get an injury in that position, he's next man in. In that, I think the left back, that left-sided players that we've had in Callum O'Dowda has been obviously out. He's having a groin operation. He's been unfortunate. And Stevens is injured, and Robbie Brady just come on back now and played last night, which is great. But he's obviously been out for a while, and played last weekend. So it's played a half last weekend, which I was at, and so James is next one in. So if there was an injury at the weekend in any of the games, we'd look to bring James back in.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. Now we'll print huddle in the next room. Thank you very much.